Welcome to the Intentional Health for Women podcast. I'm your host, Garrett GQ Query. This podcast is dedicated to developing intentional health for women. Former 400-pound fat man turned health and fitness professional, specializing in women's health. In this podcast, you will find over a decade of experience in the health and fitness industry, serving women to become their most intentional self through strength training, nutrition, and lifestyle practices. Each week, we will dive into a variety of different topics, ranging from interviews with women leading the way in the health and fitness industry, client case studies throughout the years, myth busting, social media trends, female hormones, gut health, and so much more. We are not normal. We are intentional. Welcome to another episode of the Intentional Health for Women podcast. I'm your host, Garrett GQ Query, and I'm joined today by Katie. Katie, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Katie, let's just dive in really quick. Give us a little bit of background, childhood, high school. Like, were you an athlete? Did you grow
Heck no.
up? Heck no, she
Heck
says.
no.
Not an athlete.
Not an athlete. I was a cheerleader in middle school.
Sure.
And then my freshman year of high school, I still cheered. And I stopped after that just because I was like, kind of want to be in the stands at the football games with my friends. So
that's pretty rational.
So silly. And I honestly was just kind of like falling out of love with it.
Yeah.
And throughout middle school, I started like getting serious about working out and like tracking my food, and all of that led to my eating disorder. So got super obsessive. And
what even sparked that? Like, I feel like there's definitely got to be some things going on in the home to start tracking food in middle school.
Yes. I grew up, so when I remember this like it was literally yesterday. In second grade, we had to all like weigh ourselves. We had to weigh ourselves. We had to basically do like a biography of like our life, but it had to be like height, weight, all the things. And I just like developed a lot faster than like the girls in my age, and also like even the guys. Like I was pretty tall as like a second grader.
Yep.
Yeah. So I weighed myself, and I think it was like 63 pounds. And then everyone was like talking about their weight, and people were like, oh, I weigh 50 pounds. I weigh like 51 pounds. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I weigh 63 pounds. Like I weigh more than the guys. And so that stuck with me, like just weighing more than everyone. And then also like in middle school, same thing. We had to kind of do the same thing. And I remember my friend being like, oh, I weighed 111 pounds. How much did you weigh? And I think I weighed like 115 or like 116. And I still was like, am I just always going to be like bigger than everyone? Mm-hmm. And so I just grew up a little insecure. Well, a lot.
Did anyone ever like, did you ever bring that home? And like, did anybody ever explain like, hey, you're just growing and developing faster?
I don't think so. I think I just kind of kept it to myself. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I ever talked about it. But when I got to, what was I just saying? Kind of just lost train of thought. Oh, middle school. In 8th grade, one of my guy friends, we were at a football game. A girl and I were talking. And my guy friend came up to us and was like, let's see who has more fat on their stomach. And like pulled my side and pulled her side and was like, Katie, like you're fatter than her. And after that, I was like, I am done. Like I am going to the gym tomorrow morning. Like I'm getting a gym membership. I'm downloading MyFitnessPal. And like I went ham. And so.
Because how old are you?
8th grade. I was 12, 13.
But how old are you?
Oh, how old am I now?
Yeah.
26.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm 8 years older than you. So like,
okay.
To put that back into perspective, I'm like 8th grade. I'm like, I don't think MyFitnessPal existed when I was in 8th grade, right?
I think it was like just getting like people were it was
just
new.
Starting. Yeah.
Yeah. It was new. And my brother was also a personal trainer. So I was like, I need you to give me all the tips, all the tricks. Like I'm ready to do the thing. And so, you know, when you like download MyFitnessPal, the first time you download it, it just like defaults to 1,200 calories. So I was like, all right, I got to eat 1,200 calories. And I
Mhm.
was going to the gym like 6 to 7 days a week, eating 1,200 calories. I lost weight so fast. And people were like making comments. They're like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. And so that kind of just like sparked it for me to like keep going.
Yeah.
And so that's when it kind of turned into like not so great.
Mhm.
And after, I would say that was like for a year. And then I just could not like keep up with the restriction. It was obviously, like it's hard to eat like 1,200 calories or less. And I even was eating less than that at a certain point. And I just started like binging and like overindulging.
Mm.
And I put on like 20 plus pounds like super fast because my
Yep.
metabolism was just shot.
Yeah.
So put on a lot of weight, and then I started running track. So that's kind of how we get back to the athlete part.
Mm.
So I start running track because I'm like, I need to get this weight off. Like
Mhm.
what I was doing before isn't working anymore.
Yep.
And I did like the long distance track. So I wasn't running like the 400 or anything like that. It was like the 1,600 to 3,200. And it was miserable. I hate running. I hated running then and I still hate running now. But
Mhm.
those are like the only sports that I have done.
Okay.
So not an athlete.
Not an athlete.
Not an athlete. To circle back to the athlete.
How
part.
many kids are in your family?
I have 2 older brothers.
2 older brothers.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So youngest, baby girl.
I am. Yeah. And my brothers used to make comments and be like, you don't need to like weigh your lettuce. Like you don't need to just eat carrots for dinner. Like you know that you can have more than that. And I'm like, I don't care. My fitness pal tells me to eat 1,200 calories. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm super close with them and like they've seen me go through
the evolutions. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. You already brought it up, eating disorder. Like,
Mhm.
where did that eventually, like, just extreme caloric restriction?
Yeah. So it was like extreme calorie restriction, cardio like a maniac. And then I started doing like 2 a days, was working out more than 1 time a day. And then I got to a point where I was like, I am just going to eat everything. Like I couldn't stop. And then I gained all that weight back and was like, this is embarrassing. Like this was not part of the plan. And so I like turned to cleanses, like juice cleanses. I bought like diet pills. We know those don't work.
Yes.
They did not they did not work. And then I remember like I was about to go on spring break and I was just so upset because I was like, I lost all this weight, but then I gained all of it back and more. And like I wore a shirt on spring break like the whole time because I was so insecure and embarrassed about gaining so much weight.
Right.
I got back home, was like, we're going to hit the floor running again. And I think that's when actually I signed up to do track before spring break. And then going into that was like the end of my freshman year of high school. Sophomore year of high school, like still was struggling to lose the weight. And I wasn't tracking my food. I was still going to the gym, but like I wasn't going like as hard as I wasn't killing myself. I was like just really still doing cardio. And then the beginning of my junior year of high school, I was like, we're going to go back to doing what we were doing, like 1,200 calories, get on the elliptical for like an hour a day, run up the Stairmaster, like do all the crazy cardio stuff. So I did that again and I lost the weight. And then I ended up, I'm literally giving you my entire life story.
That's what we're here for.
I think it was like before my senior year, like spring break trip, I found this girl online who did like an 8-week macro program. So I signed up for it. She didn't ask me anything about like my dieting history, like nutrition history. I just told her I want to lose weight. She's like, give me your height and weight. And I sent her my information and she gave me like 1,300 calories. So I was like, okay. So 1,300 calories. I think I was eating like literally like 30 grams of fats, something really low. And I ended up losing my cycle for like 6 months.
Yep.
And I went to the doctor and I was like, I don't know why I don't have a cycle. And I got really thin by this point. So like was small, gained weight, got small again. And she was like, we just need to do an ultrasound. She also didn't ask me about she was like, you do work out a lot. So like, it makes sense, but you obviously like, you want to have kids in the future. I'm like, yeah. She's like, you definitely need a cycle. I'm like, even if I didn't want kids in the future, like a cycle is not optional. It's not optional. So we did like an ultrasound.
Cycle is not having a cycle as a woman is not some magical badge of honor.
Right,
It's
it's
like a pretty tall tale sign of, hey, your health is a little fucked.
Kind of deteriorating a little bit. So yeah, I get an ultrasound done. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I get them back. She's like, there's something wrong with your kidney. You need to like come back in. I'm like, well, I'm in New York visiting my dad. My dad lives in New York.
Okay.
I'm not even kidding you. I ate like a normal person for 2 days. Like I ate breakfast, I ate lunch, I ate dinner. I also ate like cannolis and like rainbow cookies because the Italian bakeries in New York are literally the best.
Plus the other thing to point out here, like a really great observation. You were with family. People highly underestimate, like as a coach, like they highly underestimate the impacts that community can have on our health.
100%.
And especially community like family. How do I want to put this? I've seen this time and time again, especially when you dial someone's nutrition really in. And let's say they even are in a deficit. I've seen people go home, have built different strategies, different relationships with food, realistically probably overconsume over the holidays or over a birthday or a trip to see dad in New York and lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
Because and to frame this is like majority of the time when you're in that situation, being around family, camaraderie, community, it's not that you've lost fat. It's more than likely you've dropped a lot of inflammation, water weight, because so many of us in today's society and culture lack community, at least consistent community, consistent interaction. That's a massive stress relief.
It is. Yes.
But go ahead, continue.
Yeah,
so
and I like
weekend with dad, cannolis, pastries in New York City.
To go back off of what you were saying really quick, I had a client message me like 3 days ago, and she was like, dude, this is the best my progress picture. She was home for the holidays.
Yeah.
She's like, my weight's down and this is the best my progress pictures have ever looked. I'm like, you just went home and like decompressed. You were around people that like love you.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised. But back to what we were talking about, I ended up getting my cycle back literally while I was in New York, like 2 days in after just eating like normal. And I was like, and then it all clicked for me. It all clicked. I was like, the reason why I lost my cycle is because I've been eating like a bird for the last however many months. And I was killing my body, killing myself. And I called the doctor. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with my kidney. I got my cycle back. So yeah, that's pretty much what was did that answer your question?
Yeah, 100%. It's, I think the other thing too, not to bash on like Western medicine, but lab work. So I actually specialize in like labs, like that's, and consulting on them.
What kind of labs? What do you do? Like Dutch and HTMA? Okay. Yeah. Good stuff.
I prefer blood chemistry. It's the most well understood. Like Dutch can be useful in very specific situations, but I think it was very overhyped. Consistent blood chem is far superior. Along with like real coaching, understanding the person that's in front of you. Yeah. Like Dutch can be useful in very specific situations, but I think it definitely got overhyped because unfortunately it was over the last 5 to 8 years, it was a big money play. You could make a substantial like markup off of a Dutch panel, comparatively speaking to blood chem. Like Dutches can be valuable, but you can also go down some very not useful rabbit holes, and just get really lost in the weeds. Blood chem is just superior.
Interesting. Speaking of blood chem, kidneys
and normal ranges according to like Western medicine. If you even eat a relatively high protein diet or relatively like dehydrated on the day of your labs, it can throw off your kidney markers. And like Western medicine providers will have a conniption. They will think that your kidneys are failing.
Right.
And they're not. They're fine.
Yeah.
It's just not something that they're trained in. And
Right.
the majority of the population that they're dealing with are not eating high protein diets. A lot, we know this as health and fitness professionals, like majority of people are void of a lot of protein.
They're like over consuming, undernourished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Western medicine, not to sit here and talk smack, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I had a ton of health stuff happen over the last 3 years.
Okay.
I was just so tired all the time. Like, I used to be a morning person. Like, I worked in group fitness for years, like waking up at 3:34, like perfectly fine, like could wake up. And all of a sudden, like getting out of bed at 7:30 was like so hard for me. So I'm like, what is going on? And so I went and got labs done like twice. And they were like, your vitamin D is low and your iron's low. And I'm like, okay. So I start taking vitamin D and iron supplements. I feel nothing. I'm like, this isn't doing anything for me. I go back and they're like, everything looks good. I'm like, well, I still feel horrible. Like, I still don't feel good. And so this year, actually, I started working with a functional medicine doctor. And we found out that I have a calcium shell. My nervous system is just like fried. Graves' disease. No like good gut bacteria. And it all stems from like chronic stress pretty much for the most part. So that's why I have a little bit of beef, because I'm like with them, with like 100%. Western medicine. Yeah. Cause, and like you said, they're not trained to do like the extensive stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, we can't just be like writing people off and like telling them that they're normal and sending them home. Like, probably not the best thing to do.
Yeah. It's a big part of like why this podcast exists. Like, if you're coming here to listen to me talk, you're probably not a fan of Western medicine, or probably have been failed in some way by Western medicine, and to pay respect to that field. They just simply aren't trained in that. They don't know what they don't know. They know how to treat disease, and that's okay. Yeah. You know, like at the end of the day, like I was in a motorcycle accident 3 years ago and I degloved my pinky. I needed someone to stitch my pinky back together.
I'll go to you.
I'll go to you. Yes, Western medicine. Yes. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
You know, mind you, my provider, he was an obese gentleman who smelled like cigarette smoke and told me that weightlifting was stupid and that there's no literature that says lifting is healthy. It's like, I'd like to know what website.
This is the person that stitched you? Oh my gosh.
So, but again, it's just not the way that they're trained. A lot of them end up living inside of a silo of the way that they were trained. They continue to seek information from how they were trained.
Right.
It makes sense.
You don't know. You don't know.
You don't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sure you're very well aware of this at this point, like working with a functional med practitioner is like your lifestyle choices.
100%, yes.
From middle school to 23, if my math is right, led to the unfolding of developing the disease state that you had.
Yes. Yes, 1,000%. And just like, I have always been the type of person that's like, I cannot sit down. Like, if I sit on my couch and watch TV, I'm the laziest person in the world. Like, and it's not even that I need to be productive. It's like, I need to be busy. Like, I need to be doing something. And so a huge thing for me this year was like, you can sit on the couch and like, you can chill out for like 5 minutes. So it's been a huge change, like adjustment change, just because I was always like, I worked like 3 jobs in high school and like, I was just always doing something. And so to hear like, hey, you need to slow down, I was like, that's not in my vocabulary. And she was like, if you want to get better, like you need to like pump the brakes a bit, because you're all of the things you like the HIIT workouts, the crazy calorie restriction, you waking up at 3:30 in the morning to go to work, like all of these things have kind of like added up to why you're in the position that you're in now. And I was like, okay, I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've all compounded to create the environment that led to the state of disease.
Yes, for
because
sure.
at the end of the day, it's our genetics play a role, but it's our epigenetics that pull the trigger, aka our lifestyle and our choices. That's why we can see, especially like genetically speaking, like for example, Graves' disease, right? In what you're currently managing. If you do come to the point and you end up having children, your daughter is if you have a daughter, is very likely to genetically carry the potential.
Right.
And if you don't start, like, which it sounds like you are, right? Like you're addressing those lifestyle factors. You're learning how to calm down, create different lifestyle habits. But say you never had, you just,
kept doing what I was
this
doing.
was 30 years ago. Western medicine is basically the only intervention. You don't know what you know now. You don't know how to address these issues. You continue to go. Your daughter sees that behavior. Monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
Very likely that she winds up developing the same disease.
For
right?
sure.
Because she ends up following in the same pattern and having those lifestyle. So it's super important. Like, I think that's a big takeaway for anyone listening is
like your choices don't just affect you. They affect the like if you want to have kids one day, it's going to affect them. And like my mom, she was always go. So like you were saying, monkey see, monkey do. I was like, okay, I'll just like do the same thing. I'll be on the go all the time. And that's, normal being in this like super chaotic, stressful energy. And so, yeah. Yeah. Oh, to answer the question, you asked me how I got, I think what we were talking about, like I was kind of giving you the timeline, how I got to like the position I'm in now, like being able to heal like my relationship with food and like be, normal with fitness. I hired a coach and that's what helped me.
Yep.
So yes.
The best coaches have coaches.
Oh yeah. Yes.
One thing I noticed is you struggled with substances. Where do you feel like that came from? A lot of times when I talk to people, and something that I've curated in myself and as I've observed humans is like I've coached for a decade in myself, friendships, acquaintances, etc. Whether it be substances, whether it be a go lifestyle, whether it be porn, drugs, alcohol, or otherwise, my question is always,
what are you running away from?
What are you running from?
I think, okay, so I vaped for like 2.5 years.
Okay.
I was like addicted to nicotine. I would like sleep with it like under my pillow, hit it first thing in the morning. I like think about it now and I'm like, that's sick. That's literally sick.
Yeah.
I think that I just didn't want to like sit with myself, like being so go, like always needing to do something or like being on the phone or like being around people. I think I was just running away from like sitting with myself and like my demons. So yeah, I was literally running away from myself. And I think it was because I have always looked to the world to like tell me who I am and like always seeking approval from people, from friends, from family, even like people I don't even know. I'm like, what do you think about this? And like now I'm like, the only person's approval that I want is God. Yeah. Like that's the only thing. And I think it's still definitely like a work in progress for sure.
And it will be for life.
Yeah. Yes. Because I think like addiction runs in my blood. With like, well, to go back to substances, like I think I know, and that's why I stopped drinking too. I don't drink at all anymore. And I was never like, I didn't ever have a problem with alcohol. I just hated the person I became when I was drinking. It was like all my values and morals went out the window. Like I would wake up in the morning and just be like,
you did what?
Who did I text last night? Like,
what did I say?
What did I say?
Yeah.
Did I overshare and share like my life story with someone I don't know? And so, I think I just was always just searching for like wanting other people to tell me who I am versus like me sitting with myself and God to be like, this is what I stand for and this is who I am.
It's funny that you say that, because this year has been a massive year for me in that realm.
Like approval or?
Yeah, just like not caring, like just being like, this is who I am. And it's been one of the most wildly uncomfortable things.
So uncomfortable.
Because like I just say it, and it's pushed a lot of people away. Like people have entered and quickly exited, and it's just like, come back.
Yes.
It's okay. I'll be whoever you want me to be.
Do you find that like when you hang around certain people, you almost like slip back into that? Or like, does that make sense?
Yeah. It's why I live here. That's been a huge piece of the puzzle. Born and raised in Minnesota, and like, as I continue down this path, as I continue to sit in different rooms as a business owner, as a podcaster now, it's relationships change. In that doesn't mean that people have to leave, like family or maybe a childhood friend that's been around your life. But the dynamic of those relationships may change. And that's okay. And, you know, I'm very fortunate as I have people in my life from that old version of me that truly and wholeheartedly accept all of me as who I am and who I'm growing into be. But they also understand that, like, it's just different. It's the dynamic of our relationship is different because I operate from a different place. I recently got away and spent some time with, you know, a childhood best friend. And like, you know, there was pretty much every day while I was there, I still worked 3 to 5 hours a day. And thankfully, like I said, they fully accept me. They love me and they understand me and they know what I'm chasing. And it's a part of my life. Like, it's a part of what I'm getting after to fulfill what has been put on my heart.
Yeah.
To accomplish.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great that you have like people that are like, no matter who you are, who you're becoming, like you're still going to be my boy.
You're a woman of faith. Have you ever fallen away from Christ?
Yes. A lot of times. This is actually like where I am right now is the strongest my relationship with God has been. I think before, like, I was familiar with God, I believed in God, but I never believed that his plan was actually better than my own until like right now. So yeah, I feel like I've never had like a super strong relationship with him and then have fallen out. It's kind of just like progressed into like what it is now. Like, I was kind of lukewarm, like I would say a year ago, even before that. And now I've like fully stepped into like a whole new just like understanding like who God is, what he says about me, and like actually believing that he loves me. Like, I said this to a friend a couple days ago and I posted on Instagram. It's like, if someone that you don't know is telling you that they love you, you're probably going to be like, I don't care. Like, I don't know who you are. But like, as you start to like maybe build a relationship with a person or like get to know them, you are like, wow, I love you too. And that's exactly what has like happened with my relationship with God, like actually getting to know him. I'm like, oh my gosh, you love me. Like, that's crazy. I love you too. So, yeah, I feel like I've never like been super strong in my faith or in my relationship with God until like right now.
Okay. What would you say led to that? Like what led to the
like the desire? So I'll kind of go back in 2022. I was in a relationship for like a year and a half and it was just not going well. And I like got on my hands and knees and I prayed to God and I was like, if you do not want this for me, like, I need you to make it so clear. I need you to like put it on my heart. Like, please just take it away.
Mm-hmm.
Do whatever it is. Like, help me leave if it's to leave. If you want me to stay, like, give me the strength to like communicate it.
Nope.
And I woke up legit 2 mornings later with just like the conviction of like, go to his house right now and break up with him.
Yeah.
I literally put like all of his stuff in a bag, went there, broke up with him. So that was 2023. And then that's kind of when like I really started like pouring more into my faith with God, but I would say like still kind of like lukewarm. Then so I'm from Georgia. I moved to Arizona a year ago, it'll be a year and 3 months on January 9th. But I kept feeling a pull to move. And I was like, I don't know where, like maybe Florida, but I'm such a homebody that I knew that if I moved to Florida, I would drive home all the time. And I was like, I need somewhere warm and far away. And I was like, Arizona, like I'm going to do it. And I was praying about it.
Because like Texas would almost be probably still relatively close enough. You could
it's still like maybe I would say like it's still probably too far, but maybe like Eastern Texas, maybe. So I have a few girlfriends that live out here that are also fitness coaches. Okay. And I asked one of them, I was like, do you like living in Arizona? And she's like, I love it. Like, you should come and visit me. And I was like, I don't have time to like book a flight and go there. Like, I would just have to move. And so I ended up literally like, I'd never visited here before.
Okay.
Yeah. And my
I don't have time to visit. Just I'm going to ship it.
I told my family, I was like, I'm just going to send it. And they were like, you're insane for never going there. What if you don't like it? I'm like, I can move back home. They're like, you're in a lease for a year. I'm like, cool. I can literally still move back home. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yep.
And so I just felt like God really pulling me to come here. And so I think that also kind of like swung me into my faith. And when I got here, I was like, the only thing I have to rely on, like for me getting through like the hard, like it was just hard for me. Like when I first got here, I missed my family and like all that stuff. So I was really like leaning on God. And then in February of this year, I started dating a guy that was from my hometown. And
wait, what?
From Georgia. I started dating a guy that I had gone to college with.
Sure. And he lives here?
He lives in Georgia.
Oh, geez.
And yeah, so and throughout our relationship, like I felt like this anxiety, and I like didn't really know if it was like anxiety from like the past, like my past relationship, like causing the anxiety, or if it was God being like, hey, this is not what I want for you right now. Like, I really want you to like, you know, do your thing in Arizona and like focus on your relationship with me and like your business. Yeah. And I kind of just was like towards the end of our relationship, I really felt him, like God being like, end it. This is not what I want for you. And I'm like, la, 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 la. Like, I'm not going to listen. And it really was like, I sat down with myself and was like, God, again, like, I'm going to ask the same prayer. If this, like from my previous breakup, like if this is not what you want for me, like take it away, show me. And like 2 mornings later, I just woke up with the conviction again of like, this is not what I want for you. Yeah. Maybe later down the line, but for now, like I need you to really focus on like you. And for me, I've always put my identity in like things like my career and with my relationship and in men. And so I think like the reason why God is like, I need you to be single is to like fully work on myself and like, you know, fully anchor my identity in God. And so I ended up breaking up with him. We broke up in September. And I think that is what like has really pushed me into my relationship with God even more. Yeah. And like really understanding like, okay, I believe in him, but now I have to believe that his plan is better than mine. Yeah. So that's how I got to this point. It's from breakups. There's always a good thing that comes out of the bad. And it's always been me like fully leaning on God and like pursuing him and having a better relationship with him. Yeah. How did you start your walk with God? Because you're a Christian. Yeah.
I was, born in the church, baptized June 17th of 1990. I was born June 4th. So, born into the church, raised in the church. my parents were pretty lukewarm, attended service when we could.
On holidays.
Right. A little bit more than that.
Okay.
Little more frequently. Sporadic, right? Like depended on the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, depended on the year, we would, I got confirmed, in a Lutheran church. So attended all of those things, right? Like going through middle school, early high school, did all of the traditional, things like as far as like, what leads up to confirmation, the middle school Bible studies, etc. Was very, involved that way. Then really fell away, like as far as like being active, going to church. And then I lost my mom at 18. And somewhere in there within the following years and failed relationship, the combination of like losing my mom, failed relationship, like started to become more and more like lukewarm, attending the church that I grew up in more and more. Fast forward a handful of years, couple more, failed relationships, was introduced to a non-denominational church. And that really,
you're like, whoa,
yeah,
where am I?
Very
So
different, which to my point there is like, I was actually really blessed is like, I grew up, the Lutheran church that I attended, we had the sanctuary and very traditional mass organ, the whole thing. But we also had the Christian Life Center. We sat around tables and chairs, coffee and donuts, camaraderie and community.
It's kind of like a mix.
Band, right? Kind of a slight, kind of, it was like an introduction to non-denominational church.
The introduction. Yes.
And so when I found non-denominational, that definitely impacted me. And then, and that was around probably 27. And then I moved to Arizona. And like you said, I didn't have a whole lot here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I had 2 cousins to my parents, right? So it would be my parents' cousins, and a grandma who lives in Prescott. And then my roommate that had moved out here 3 months before I did, who was from my hometown. And that was it. Like that's all I really had. And so, in my career, so I had bartended for a better part of a decade. So that was another big piece of like church not really being super easy to attend because it was work until 4:00 in the morning, wake up and like scrape yourself out of bed to attend 10 a.m. service or 10:30.
Yeah, that's rough.
It was really rough. And so I did my best in my late 20s. And then as I moved out here, ended up serving, not bartending, working at a restaurant that didn't close as late. And so really, like, kind of like you said, really just lukewarm, attending church more and more. I was engaged and with someone for 3 years. Just never should have been. And was pretty in a really low spot. It would have been, found my therapist, faith-based therapist, was going through a rough spot. Someone had reached out and just thought of me and introduced me to Real Men's, a men's group and Bible study that's held at Trinity.
Yeah.
By Pastor Mark Driscoll.
Oh, he runs it?
Yep. So Pastor Mark Driscoll runs Real Men's. They meet every Tuesday night, and there's typically upwards of 600 men.
I was going to say there's probably like
Tuesday.
A ton of people there.
Yeah, every Tuesday night. So very different experience from a faith perspective and Bible study perspective. Like, majority of Bible studies I've ever been involved with, like you're talking about maybe 6 to 15 men maximum. Camaraderie, come in, chat about what's going on, read a passage, discuss it. How does that apply, etc. Pastor Mark does things very differently. There's worship. There is a sermon for men. Talk about, some verses and stuff like that. And then camaraderie amongst your table. Right. So that's where that's come.
Love that.
Outside of my travels, I'm typically there every Sunday, every Tuesday, and a lot more active in my faith.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you found that Bible study too.
So which leads me to my next question, because I think this is a huge piece, is how does your relationship with God impact your life from a perspective of your health and fitness, your business, and your relationships? Let's start with, how does it affect you in health and fitness?
I think that number one, God is just the foundation of everything in my life. When it comes to health and fitness, truly looking at my body as a temple, treating my body with respect by eating foods that make me feel good, moving my body in a way that makes me feel good. I was thinking about this today actually, and I was I don't like body positivity at all. The body positivity movement is awful. And I was it's literally a sin. Body positivity is literally a sin. Not taking care of yourself, not working out, and that is not
nourishing your body, because it's not.
Correct. Yeah.
I was 400 pounds. I can talk about this openly, and if you have a problem, try me. I dare you, because I've been there. I've been down that rabbit hole. I've eaten my feelings. I've eaten to quote unquote feel good, and I'm sorry, it doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. It feels good in the moment. Right. It gives you a dopamine high. It gives you a chemical high, and that is it.
Yeah.
But
you feel not great after.
No.
And yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. Terrible. So yeah, I think that just really treating my body with respect and looking at it actually as a temple and not just I want to look a certain way. Of course we all want to look a certain way, but I also want to make sure that I'm taking care of myself well, for God, to serve God.
Mm-hmm.
So
one thing I talk about, something that for me personally, and I don't know if this will resonate for you, is when I'm disciplined in my faith, when I'm disciplined in that stuff, it makes everything else as far as discipline, right? Is because here's the thing.
I know you're about to say
pizza, cookies, all those things, they taste good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always easy to say no to those things and choose the things that, like you are saying, is honor God, make us feel good.
Yes.
Was that what you were thinking, or was
yeah, definitely. Eating, for me, and my background with food, I had a horrible relationship with food for a really long time. And so with my clients, I have a lot of girls that come to me under eating, and they're terrified to eat Cheez-Its, or they're terrified to eat bagels. And so with that, I'm okay, I want you to eat the Cheez-Its. I want you to eat the bagels, because you avoiding it, you're not going to heal doing that. So when I say eating foods that, make me feel good, doesn't mean I'm going to never eat I love a sweet treat every day. I love, and I would never tell my clients hey, you can't have Cheez-Its unless you don't like them or you're allergic to them, right? Or if there's something wrong with you, health, that you can't eat them. So yeah, eating foods that make me feel good, and also allowing myself to have the foods that I do enjoy as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something I think I come back to a lot is in my coaching, and how I bring it to people is, it's not that you can't have that thing, and it's not even that it's bad for you, right? It's, what would this choice, how does 100 grams of Cheez-Its impact you versus 200 grams of blueberries? What does that look like? So it's not demonizing and saying Cheez-Its are bad, because sometimes Cheez-Its are the answer. Because who doesn't love a good handful of Cheez-Its? Come on.
That's crazy if someone doesn't.
But a lot of times, more often than not, like when, especially for as you're starting to get into later in life, you maybe have a couple of kids, you're a mom, is that 100 grams of Cheez-Its going to fuel you and make you feel your best and cognitively show up as your best? Or is the 200 grams of blueberries?
Right, exactly.
And sometimes the answer still does come back to Cheez-Its, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Because you just want them, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
How does that impact your business? How does your walk with God, faith, etc., impact business?
I didn't invite God into my business until recently. It was always just me, and I actually just like gave my business a little facelift. My business was Team Chiara Fitness, and then I was like, for a year and a half, I've been sitting on like fit and free coaching, and I was like, there's just something missing, and it was God, like it was the Jesus piece that was missing, and so now I'm like, you're the CEO of this thing, dude. Like, not me. Like, you have your way with it. Like, whatever you want to do with it, like, do it. And let me just, like, be the vessel. And so, it's been interesting that, like, it seems like God's always been part of my life when it comes to relationships and all this stuff. And, like, it's just recently that I was like, let's go. You need a seat here. You got to take the driver's wheel, the steering wheel, actually. So when it comes to like how my faith affects my business, I think just like allowing God to like inviting God into it and being like, it's not going to be anything without you.
I feel like when I approach business from a perspective of like inviting God in and looking at it through a lens of a servant's heart.
Dude, that's crazy that you just said that.
It just like, it amplifies everything, and more of what I'm looking for is showing up. Like it just kind of, and more of what I don't want, it goes away. And I think that's always the challenge, right? Having faith in the hard times. Yeah. Because while they can be hard and there can be lessons there, sometimes you feel like you're getting stripped naked, and like you feel like you're just like you're a failure. Everything that you've worked so hard is being taken away from you. It wasn't so long ago, within the last handful of months, that like there was a kind of handful of like exodus, like, right, like clients leaving. A lot of it was really like out of my control. And initially, right, the instinct is guilt, shame. Why is this happening to me? What am I doing wrong? And it wasn't too long after that all of a sudden it was like the best month in my entire like career.
That's awesome.
So it's really funny to not, you got to be patient and hold steadfast.
Yes. And it's like, it's God's timing, you know, like it's not ours.
Yeah.
And even though like we're going to have months that aren't as great, it's like, no, we don't need to burn the business to the ground. We just need to like have faith. And something that I've been praying on so much, I was like praying on my word for the year. You know, we all have our words for the year. And God was like, servant. And I was like, okay. And I think it's just like such a big part of my business. Like the service piece is obviously like the client fulfillment is the most important part of the business. And I've had so many moments this year where like or last year, that's crazy. I've just had so much doubt. And God's just like, keep pushing through. Like it's going to be good. Like servant heart, service. And also something that he's put so heavy on my heart is like, this is not for you. Like, this is not for you. This is for the people that need you and the people that you need to serve. So like, stop making it so much about you and start making it about the people that need you. And I'm like, aye, Captain.
Fit and free coaching. What does that mean to you? And why is it the foundation and bedrock of your company?
The fit part, obviously, because it's about fitness and like getting people fit.
Yeah.
The freedom part goes deep with like food freedom, but also like free from societal pressures and like cultural pressures as well. And like really finding freedom in your identity, like with God. So like my slogan is freedom and fitness. Freedom and fitness anchored in faith. Just because like when you're constantly putting like your identity in your body image or in your career or in money or in relationships, like those things change and those things are fleeting. Whereas like anchoring in your identity with God, like that's stable and that's never changing because he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So the freedom part ties into, I think, like the whole foundation of the business, like the food freedom, the freedom around societal pressure, and also just like the freedom that you find when you put your identity in Christ.
Yeah. Okay. So the question that I don't ever include in my is, this is the Intentional Health for Women podcast. As we step into 2025 in this next season, how are you going to live life intentionally?
Literally being a servant, having a servant heart, being of service, and not just like in my business with like my clients, but like other people, like friends, family, people I don't know, serving at church. I need to do that. I signed up, but I have to take the classes. I used to
at Trinity?
At Impact.
Okay.
That's my home church. I used to serve at the church that I went to back at home. And then COVID hit and I stopped. The church shut down. So I'm like, Katie, we need to get back into serving this year. So that is something I need to do. And yeah, just like really focusing on like not making it so much about me and like making it about like, how can I serve my people, my friends, my family, my clients, like to the best of my ability.
Love it.
What about you?
How am I going to live intentionally?
Yes.
So this year, 17 years in the making, I will step on a bodybuilding stage.
Let's go. Do you have a coach?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good.
Of course.
I thought so.
17 years in the making. And the reason I chose that outlet is the discipline, because as I step into the coming years, something that is very present on my heart is wanting to be a husband, and potentially, if it's in God's plan, is to be a father.
So exciting.
The continue to walk in my faith. So, as Real Men gets started back up here in a couple of weeks, is attending my weekly sessions, getting into church on Sundays, being, reading my Bible daily, reading my devotionals, reading my Bible daily. As far as business, just really it's all in this year. It's all in this year, building from a place of service, to really build out that front end of the business, really build out a completely different content strategy than I've ever had, and going, full steam ahead here on the podcast as well, and leading with that same servant heart, coming into 2025, and really just pulling in people and giving an opportunity to tell that story and continue to impact as many lives as I can through the podcast, because it's just so much. The podcast gives me an opportunity to be so much bigger and greater than anything I can ever accomplish within the confines of just my company.
It's fun.
Yeah.
To just like talk to people all the time and like get to know people. Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Where can we find you?
My Instagram is KT, like the letter KT, Chiara, CHIARA.
Awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for
coming on.
Thank you.
If this episode brought you value, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. We are not normal. We are intentional.